Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Terry Skillman, and I'm the Associate Director for the Center for Southeast Asian Studies. Thank you for attending the second workshop in our series today. The workshops are brought to you by the Center for Southeast Asian Studies through the International Foreign Language and Area Studies grant that has established us as a national resource center for Southeast Asia. This afternoon, Dr. Pia Arboleda is the recipient of the UH Board of Regents Medal for Excellence in Teaching, and she will be leading our second workshop. Dr. Arboleda holds a Doctor of Arts degree in Language and Literature, a major in Literature, plus a master's degree in Language and Literature with a major in Filipino, and a bachelor's degree of science in commerce focused on marketing from De La Salle University. She teaches Filipino language and culture courses in the Indo-Pacific Languages and Literature Department at UH Manoa. Dr. Arboleda is also a poet and a creative writer. Her works have appeared in Forbidden Fruit, Women Write the Erotic, Kung Ibig Mo, Love Poetry by Women, Essays on Women, The Baguio We Know, Essays on Philippine Language and Literature, among others. She now produces multimedia instructional materials on Philippine folklore and films. From 2011 to 2021, she served as the coordinator of the Filipino and Philippine Culture Program. She was the director of the Center for Philippine Studies and chair of the Department of Indo-Pacific Languages and Literatures until 2024. And currently, she is the interim director for the Center for Southeast Asian Studies. So without any further delay, I turn it over to Pia Arboleda.
Thank you so very much for the wonderful introduction, Dr. Skillman. Thanks, Terry. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for the second workshop in this series. So, Enlivening Southeast Asia Children's Literature Workshop we were thinking of doing these workshops to help teachers who are veterans or those who are just starting out. So, my workshop today is so that I can share. I prepared these slides so I can share a specific module that I have been using for many years. It's called Two Friends, One World by Ramon Sunico, who is a popular writer in the Philippines. He is also a poet and book designer. When I first used these materials, I would bring a storybook to class. And even if they were university students, I would read as if they were little children. And I have also ran this workshop for kids. And what I observed is that the children are more creative and can do the exercise better than the adults. Um, so the module may be found in our website because we have through the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, we have a Pamana ng Lahi project, which is funded by the Fulbright Hayes and the Luz Foundation. Pamana is the Filipino word for heritage, and lahi means race or people. Pamana ng lahi speaks of the things that our ancestors bequeathed to us, their language, ancient knowledge, and cultural traditions. This project has four components. One is the module development. The second is for the language and culture workshop for DOE schools. So we go to different high schools and share and run the workshops. We did two workshops. The first one was just a test, and then the second workshop was done online because when we ran it, COVID hit. Then the third component is the teacher training. We just finished a second major teacher training 2 weeks ago. And then the fourth is to put all of these materials online. So today I am sharing with you the module number 7, which is on um, Two Friends, One World. So just to give you an idea of how we designed these modules, most of the time when we create a module, or a lesson plan, it's very difficult to think of objectives. Is there an affective objective, um, or an or is it like intellectual objective? So which is, I know, necessary for high schools. But what we did was to adapt what we call a freestyle um, lesson plan, which is just divided into 3 parts. First is the motivating activity. The second is the processing activity. And then the third is the processing activity, and the third is the culminating activity. The processing activity is the focus of my presentation today. So processing activities may be playing a video with guide questions. It could be games, group work, etc. So you will find in the modules that we have designed that the processing activity varies, but the guide quest, so it is mainly the input for the teacher, and then the culminating activity is the assignment, the writing prompt for students. Sometimes we also include an enrichment activity, something that they can watch on their own, like another movie or another article for them to read, which will no longer be discussed in class. But we sometimes have students who are really interested, for example, to read more of the books by Ramon Sunico or other poets and writers in the Philippines. Mm, return to my PowerPoint. Second. Yeah. So the module begins with an explanation about 3 important terms. I asked the students what do they think um, aesthetics means, the word aesthetics. Most of the time, students will say it is the concept of beauty. So if you put flowers in your room, then it becomes more aesthetically appealing. But the real root, but the real meaning of aesthetics is one that makes you feel, because um, and this is why when you need to undergo an operation, they put anesthesia, which makes your feelings numb. Um, so the humanities courses are designed so that we can feel more human, and we can appreciate um, artwork so that we can look at our lives and how to behave better in our world. Then I introduced the concept of synesthesia by using this haiku translated from the original Japanese, therefore there is no rhyme. The poem goes, Autumn evening now, flowers chimed a peal of fragrance. So when we when I explain synesthesia, I tell the students that if there is a stimulus, for example, a scent, then the sense that responds to it is the sense of smell. But when we do synesthesia, the stimulus is given, but a different sense will respond to the stimulus. So for example, here, the idea is a peel of fragrance. So it's actually the sound of a smell. So there was a scent, but the writer here, the persona here, heard the scent. So when we mix our senses, then this is a sample of synesthesia. But it will become more apparent later when I give more examples. So after I explain the three basic terms, aesthetics, anesthetic, and synesthesia, then I go into the processing activity and I play them this video. Oh, just a second, I'll make sure that I share sound.
Mata at mangga. Ang kwento ni Antonio. May kaibigan akong taga-ibang daigdig. Francisca ang pangalan niya. Nakatira siya sa isang daigdig na puno ng liwanag. Yan ang sabi niya kapag nagkikita kami tuwing Sabado ng hapon. Tuwing Sabado ng hapon, sinasamahan ako ni Mama at namamasyal kami. Malayo ang nilalakad namin. Lampas pa sa mga bahay kung saan may nagkukwentuhan. Lampas ng isang kalyeng panay kotseng bumubusina. Sa wakas, kapag naririnig na namin ang mga batang naglalaro at ang mga inang nagkukwentuhan, alam kong nasa plaza na nga kami. Tuwing Sabado ng hapon, dito sa plaza ng maliligayang tinig, nagtatagpo kami ni Francisca. Lagi siyang sumisigaw sa boses niyang mataas, Antonio, Antonio, tara na, tara na. At tuloy nang tatakbo si Francisca kay Mama upang batiin siya at kunin ang aking kamay. Maliliit ang kanyang daliri ngunit malakas ang kapit nila. Kinukuha niya ang kamay ko at namamasyal kami. Habang naglalakad, magsasalita siya at kinukwento ang lahat ng matatanaw niya sa dinadaanan namin. Ngayon, malapit na tayo sa punong kinikwento ko sa iyo noon. Ito ang punong mangga natin. Matangkad siya, matangkad pa sa iyo at sa akin. Matangkad pa kay Papa at sa Mama mo, kahit na tumuntong tayo sa balikat nila. Parang kutsilyo ang dahon niya. Ito, hawakan mo. Alam mong tuyo na siya dahil napakalutong na at kay daling madurog. Naku, napakalapad ng puno niya. Magaspang pa. Sige, hipuin mo. Sa kanya nang gagaling yung mga pambihirang manggang napakakinis at napakatamis. Manggang parang ginto. At ngumingiti ako dahil nakatikim na ako ng mangga. Tatawa si Francisca at magsasalita. Kung gaanong katamis ang mangga sa dila, ganun ding katamis ang liwanag sa mata. Minsan, kapag ito ang pinag-uusapan ni Francisca, nalulungkot ako dahil hindi ako nakakakita. Luha lamang ang kilala ng mga mata ko. Ngunit nakikita ito ni Francisca at kapag nakita niya ang mga luhang nadudula sa pisngi ko, humihigpit ang hawak ng kanyang malalakas na daliri at sinasabi niya, "Tahan na, sapat na ang malalaking mata ko para sa ating dalawa." At nilalapit niya ang daliri ko sa kanyang mata at sinasabi, "Tingnan mo, Antonio, pula ang kulay ng langit kapag naglalaro ang araw at gabi. Bughaw ang kulay ng dagat dahil sumasayaw ang mga kabibi. Dilaw ang kulay ng araw na pumapaso sa pisngi, na tagatuyo ng luha. Kakulay ng manggang napakatamis sa dila, manggang nagpapalagkit sa daliri. Berde ang kulay ng dahong pabulong-bulong kapag umugong ang hangin. At ang hangin kumikiliti sa atin, ang hanging sumusuklay sa buhok natin ay hinding-hindi magpapakita sa iyo o sa akin. Itam? At natatawa na lang ako sa kanyang tula ng mga pambihirang kulay at dali-dali ko na ring nalilimutan na bulag nga ako at nakatira siya sa ibang daigdig. Ito ang kaibigan kong si Francisca na mas mahalaga pa sa akin kaysa sa matang nakakakita. Ang kwento ni Francisca. May kaibigan akong taga-ibang daigdig. Antonio ang pangalan niya. Nakatira siya sa isang daigdig na puno ng tunog at amoy ng lasa at damdamin. Kung sa bagay, puno rin ang daigdig ko ng tunog at amoy ng lasa at damdamin, ngunit madalas na masyado akong naaabala sa kakatingin at hindi ko na sila napapansin. Tuwing Sabado ng hapon, kapag palubog na ang araw, hinahatid siya ng mama niya sa plaza kung saan ako naghihintay. Kahit malayo pa, natatanaw ko na siya, sabi ni Papa, dahil napakalaki ng aking mga mata. Tumatakbo ako sa kanya upang kunin ang kanyang kamay at hinahayaang mamasyal kami ng mama niya. Tinuturo sa akin ni Antonio kung paano maging tahimik. Napakatahimik, naririnig kong kinakausap ng hangin ang mga dahon. Napakatahimik, nararamdaman kong lumalamig ang hangin paglubog ng araw. Bulag si Antonio. Hindi niya nakikita, ngunit naaamoy niya ang mapuputing bulaklak ng rosal na tumutubo doon sa sirang pader ng lumang simbahang malayo sa plaza. Nahuhulaan niya kapag may baong mangga si Papa, kahit na nakatago pa ito sa supot. Minsan, dahil sa kanya, nakakita na rin ako ng tipaklong. Tulad ng dati, kwento ako ng kwento. Sinusubukan kong ipaliwanag kung ano ang bundok nang bigla niya akong sinitsitan. "Shh, Francisca, makinig ka. May gumagalaw sa damo." Nasaan? Nasaan? Wala akong makita. Ay naku, Francisca, tumahimik ka nga. Baka matakot mo pa siya. Gamitin mo ang tainga para maghanap at makakakita rin ang iyong mga mata. Pakinggan mo ang sarili mong paghinga at susunod ang ibang mga tunog. At gano'n na nga ang nangyari. May narinig akong gumagalaw sa tuyong damo. Sinundan ko ito. Nauna ang tainga, sumunod ang mata. Dahan-dahan. Dahan-dahan. At nang ang paghinga lang ni Antonio ang naririnig ko, nakita ko siya, si Tipaklong. Berde at matulis at may rayang pula sa likod niya. Nagpasalamat ako kay Antonio sa pinakita niya sa akin. At ngumiti siya tulad ng pagngiti niya kapag nakatikim siya ng manggang hinog at malamig. Isang araw, sasabihin ko sa kanya na baka hindi naman magkaiba ang aming daigdig. Tutal, nagkikita naman kami tuwing Sabado ng hapon. Ang nakikita ko, maririnig niya o masasalat o maaamoy o malalasahan. Ang hindi naman niya makita, mapapakita ko sa salita. Isang Sabado ng hapon, magtatagpo kami at sasabihin ko sa kanya na baka iisa lang ang daigdig namin. Ngunit napakalaki nito at napakaganda at napakaraming nangyayari sa daigdig na ito na kailangan ng dalawang magkaibigan upang malasap ang tamis niya. Tulad ng isang napakalaking mangga, malamig, makinis at mabango, kakulay ng ginto at araw.
So just a note on the production. We produced this in 2010, and we didn't intend for it to be animation. So this is actually a digital comic book. And the most important component was the subtitling, because when I arrived here, there were no bilingual materials that I could use for Filipino language class. And the good thing about taking a storybook and producing a video is that today there are new apps that you can use, and you can produce the videos much more easily, and they're more vibrant. The trick is to make sure the audio that you start with the audio file and make sure that the audio is clear. When my students submit projects, sometimes, for example, for their oral history project, the video is really nice, but we couldn't hear the voice of the people they were interviewing. So I always tell them that so even if the image is clear, if the sound is unclear, then your video doesn't work. So the important thing is to begin with the audio track, and then just if you're using Movie Maker or any other app, then just align the images, and then just put in, not just, but it is difficult, but then put in your soundtrack and the other Foley sounds that you will need for your story to come alive. If you need help, I mean, I'm sure there are people who are more are experts in creating videos, but I can share some of the ones that we have refined our digital production process, but there's still digital comic books, not animation. So if you are interested in particular apps that we are using, they're all open source, then just drop me a line, and I can share those with you. Particularly for subtitles, I know that if you, it's very easy now. You can even do subtitles on your phone. But if you would like more if you would like to know what apps we have been using for subtitling, then I will be able to share those with you. So when this particular storybook was used as the book of the day in Farrington High School, and for this story, they were able to use the story to explain or create an exercise for explaining distance. So how far is the how far from the plaza um, to the church, and whether it was from the point of view of Francisca or Antonio, the distance is the same. So for literature, like I mentioned, you can explain point of view because it's the same story narrated by two voices, in two voices. But for my classes, I give them this exercise. So I read the excerpt again of the explanation for color. So red is the color of the sky when the day and night meet. Blue is the color of the sea, where the cold fishes play. Yellow is the color of the sun. Green are the leaves. And the wind that makes us laugh, that moves our hair, that makes our clothes fly, not even I can see. But these particular exercises are not synesthesia. I mean, not really. And if you were to explain the concept of color to somebody who is blind, this is probably not the best example for because if I were blind, I would have never been able to see a leaf. So I don't know what that color really is. But if I described color in terms of my other senses, then probably the person who is blind will be able to understand it better. So the writing prompt is to explain the concept of color to a person who is visually impaired. So you cannot say an apple is red. I have if I were blind, I haven't seen an apple. But if you say red is when you're angry and your cheeks burn, then maybe that is red. If you smell fresh laundry, then maybe that is the color green. On a really hot day, and I drink ice cold water, maybe that is white. So the concepts of color may differ for each student. When I ran this for the grade schoolers, they were so excited to explain it like, oh, my chair, it's soft. I think it's white or pink. And then they will say, pink is the feeling of if I were sleeping on a cloud. So they are more open and creative. But adults, because we have been trained to be logical, sometimes it takes a rewiring in order to answer the prompt in a more creative or in a like out of the box kind of way. Um, the students can decide to use a rainbow of colors, different one description for each color, or they can decide to describe only one color in different ways. One of my creative writing, one student who was a creative writing major described the color black and in Filipino, and it is on the website. But her description of black, I told them that you can describe a person in terms of what it is not. So describe a color based on what it is not. So red is this, but red is not this. So she said, if you walk in your room and you use your hands to guide you. Black is not the curtains. Black is not the chair that you sit on. Black is not the floor. So as long as you can feel something, that is not the color of black. She said black is, if you go down the steps, it's not the plank of the stairs, but it's the spaces between those steps that is black. And then she says if you go down, 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 walk down, and one time if there is no more step, then and you fall, then she said the feeling of falling into nothingness, that is, if you experience that, then you are in the belly of, um, she said pusod ng itim, so it's the belly of the color black. So it ranged, the responses that I have gotten over the years ranged from really simple, playful descriptions from children, and sometimes more vivid explanations from my university students. I told them not to describe things in terms of um, not concrete things. For example, red is strength. In Filipino, their favorite is brown, is the color of courage, because they say kayumangi is like the color of the Filipino people, and we have to fight for our independence. So those things are not very clear. And so I tell them that's not what we are looking for. Other guide questions that I use are, so these are in Filipino, but I will translate them. So what would a color taste like? So sometimes when we have smaller groups, I bring different jelly, and then they taste the yellow one that tastes like pineapple, and the purple one that tastes like grape. But then I ask them, what does purple taste like? What does green taste like? And then some of them would say purple tastes like medicine, or what, and then one of them would say, yellow is very, very sweet. It gives you a toothache. So then at least if you were to describe it to somebody who can't see, then maybe they would have a clearer picture of what yellow or purple would be. Then I asked them, do you think that Monday and Friday taste the same? And then they will say, no, definitely Monday. Monday feels like the adobo or the stew that I eat from the cafeteria. But Friday tastes like the adobo that my mom makes. It's really more masarap. It's more delicious. And so I love the taste of Friday. There is another excerpt on the module about the color of sound. So I read them that excerpt about the character of Tia, who has like multicultural hearing, multicolored hearing. And I asked them, what is the color of sound? So some examples would be if I scratched my nails onto the blackboard and it produces a screeching sound, that's probably red. Or if if my mom were angry at me and they say, Pia, you better do your homework. That the color of that is different than if you said, Pia, here have come and eat breakfast. So one is probably red, and the other one telling me to eat breakfast. The sound of that is pink. So depends on the emotions. And yeah, so then the writing prompt is explain the color to somebody who is blind. So that's the and other I didn't have an enrichment activity for this particular module, but I did refer them to the other works of Ramon Sunico and other children's books that are bilingual, that they can read. Some of my university students are returning students, so they have small children, 3, 4, and then they ask us for referrals, what kind of storybooks they can read to their kids, especially because they now see the value of reading to them in Filipino as a child, because some of them were not not trained, or were not, the parents only wanted them to speak English, so that they could assimilate into the culture. But that trend is now reversed slowly. Now parents try to expose their children to Filipino, because at that age they can easily just acquire the language, and so they bring them more often to their grandparents or uncles and aunts who can speak Filipino, so that they're exposed to the language. So there are many other resources on the Pamana ng Lahi website. Some of them are only on language, and then the others are on culture. And there are different topics like food, dance, Philippine music, that are on the website. So, do you have any questions, or maybe you would want to try answer, type onto the chat a description of a color? Sorry, let me check. Do you have any questions for now before we go into the workshop? No questions?
We don't see any in the Q&A or the chat, Pia.
Okay, so we will share with you the Google Doc for the exercise. And then I will play the video, and the participant's task is to write a motivating activity, a processing activity, and a culminating activity for students. Pin, would you mind putting, oh, is that you put it on the chat already? Okay, thanks. So this is the, if you click on that document, then you can write on them. And actually, if you have ideas that aren't part of our modules, we may ask you to we may ask for your permission to use those and add it to our website, and we will give you the proper acknowledgement for them if you would like to join our team. So the subject would be the following video that we will now play. It's a very short video of 3 minutes, and you can try and create your lesson based on them. So this particular video is from my dissertation. So the story was retrieved from the elders in Barlig Mountain Province. The video shows the point of view or worldview of the Ifialik people regarding the relationship that humans should have or have about the relationship between humans and nature. So we'll play it first, and if you have questions, you can ask them. And if there are no questions, then please answer write your ideas about the exercises, about the different parts for the Google Doc. Pin, would you mind sharing?
Do we need a breakout room or no?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I mean, yeah, we have. I think we can just stay and then give them time to write.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, right on. Sorry. Okay.
Maanam-am, hango sa salaysay ni Pedro Padyangan. Matatagpuan ang ili ng maanam-am sa ibabaw ng bundok sa taas ng Tiko. Noong unang panahon, matitikas na mga ngaso ang kalalakihan ng maanam-am. Nagtatabi sila ng mga bungo ng mga baboy damo na kanilang nauhuli. Isang araw, isang binata ang nag-isip na magbiro at ipinagsuot niya ang kanyang aso ng ikinuwintas na ulo ng baboy damo. Naging katawa-tawa ang anyo ng aso. Nagtawanan ang lahat ng makakita nito. Lingid sa kaalaman ng mga taga-maanam-am, pinapanood ng mga bathala ang lahat ng kilos nila. Isang araw naman, uminom ang isang bata sa labangan ng baboy. Pinagalitan ng bata ng matatanda. Pinagsabihan siyang huwag nang iinom sa labangan dahil madumi ang tubig doon at para lamang iyon sa mga baboy. Namangha ang lahat nang bigla na lamang nagalit ang tubig at nagsalita.
Kung madumi ako, bakit ninyo ako ipinandidilig sa inyong mga paligid? Hindi ako madumi. Ako ang nagpapatulo sa inyong mga tanim upang maging masagana ang inyong ani.
Natigilan ang mga taga-maanam-am. Nakita ng mga bathala ang kalapastanganan ng mga taga-maanam-am sa kalikasan. Dahil dito, isinumpa nila ang mga taga-maanam-am. Dumuho ang mga yungib at bumagsak ang lupa pababa ng bundok. Natabunan ang mga taga-maanam-am at kaunti lamang ang nakaligtas. Ang mga nakaligtas sa sakuna ay lumipat sa Tabra upang doon na manirahan. Sa paglakad ng panahon, sinamahan na rin sila ng mga taong galing sa Masiki. Marami sa bumagsak na lupa ng maanamam ang natambak sa tamkang sa paanan ng bundok. Ayon sa mga matatanda, ang pagguho ng maanamam ang dahilan kung bakit magkatulad ang lupa sa maanamam na nasa ibabaw ng bundok at sa tamkang na nasa paanan naman.
So first, did you have questions about the video or reactions? And thanks, Grace. I will, if you send me your email address, I can send you a list of the apps that we are using, especially for the subtitles. Do you have questions, or do you want to go straight to your activity?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So many stories have a moral that it teaches. Is there a moral embedded in this story for the community, the young kids who are hearing it?
Yes, so, I mean, there are obviously many things that you can draw from it, but in Ifyalik culture, there's a very thin line between the real world and the spirit world, so they can easily contact the the gods, and so um, to and they need to behave properly because the gods are always watching. So it's not just about people, even if you're by yourself, you need to behave properly. And so here they disrespected water. This particular story for me, I like it very much because the water speaks. And then it said, like, I make your plants grow. And I sustain everybody in this village. So how could you say that I'm dirty? So that's one of the things that I highlight when I discuss the text with my students. And you cannot disrespect the animals, the objects. Oh, in their culture, if they have like the skulls of their that they hunted, those are important to them. It's like a trophy, and if you don't care for those, then you are disrespecting the object, the people who owns it, and then you're not behaving like a real Ifyalik. But also the concept so if you are not if you don't behave, then the gods get angry. So for them, if there is an earthquake, then they do rituals, or they self-reflect and say, wait, what happened? Did we do anything to offend the gods? If there's a famine or a bad harvest, then they think about how they could behave better, so then they can have a better harvest. But it also talks about the settlement. So that's why they say the people who live up the mountain and the people who live down the mountain have an affinity. So it talks about so even if two Ifyalik people meet elsewhere, let's say Manila, and they get into an altercation, for example, car accident, then they say, wait, I'm from Barlig, so you're from Barlig. Oh, okay, then we are actually kin. We are related. So then they settle the matter better. more peacefully, because in the old days, these are actually these people are headhunters, and it's very easy for them to get into clan war. So a small altercation could result in, the elimination of each other's bloodline. But here they talk about affinities, peace, because in that culture also peace pacts are important. And even though they no longer are headhunters, the idea of peace pacts are still maintained and respected.
I have a question.
Thank you.
I'm from Indonesia, so my question is in the context of children in the small city. I think the literature, the story is really powerful. But what in the context of Jakarta, for example, where story of whatever story is no longer available and people no longer believe in any of the myth, how can we teach that how can we bring the message to the children through the story?
Thank you for that question. So, Ifyalig, the Ifyalig language is called Finalig. So there are movements now to document endangered languages, right? Finalig as a language is not endangered because there are still many speakers of it, but the stories are endangered because when I did my dissertation 25 years ago, there was no electricity. I mean, it was just recently electrified. So 1996, electricity came to Barlig. There were no cell phones, etc. But today, it is a modern, like it's now a more modern city. They no longer really wear traditional attire except on during rituals. So the stories are endangered, like in any other place. They read Harry Potter, and sometimes these are not taught in schools. And the stories are about their hero ancestors. Like if you go to the website, there's more like how they solve a crisis, and it talks about the way they decide as a community how to deal with a monster that's eating people. But so it was hard to I had a moral dilemma because um, if you turn them into videos, right? So it's from the stories that they hear at the campfire. Um, and then you give it to them in a form that's modern, like a video. And sometimes they don't even have like CD players, or in some areas maybe they don't have internet, but in the schools they would probably have it by now. So I had to change the form, so that, and then return the stories to them. So when I finished the study, I gave them copies of. There are only two schools, one high school and one grade school, in Barlig. So I gave them copies of the books, and I gave all the storytellers copies of the book, and then when it became these videos, then I sent them copies in CD, in DVD format, whether or not they could use it at that time. But I was hoping that they would be able to do that. But now they can access it through in online. So we really need. So as a folklorist, our job is we're running out of time. because if we record the stories too late, they become tainted with other um, ideologies, and then they're no longer as pure as before. So now maybe if I went there, the stories about the same hero ancestor, let's say their hero ancestor is called Amfusnon. So maybe the adventures of Amfusnon has already morphed, and the monsters that he's fighting is now different. And it will still be all right to record and retrieve those stories, except that we need to recall like the more ancient, the origin tales. So it's this is happening everywhere in the world where there are indigenous peoples who are experiencing the pressures from the outside. And then want it's all this like colonial and like we all want to learn how to speak English in the Philippines, um which is very sad. Yeah, but the beauty of the culture is in the stories. That's why we need them.
I have another quick question. So when you showed us your media, it seems a little bit of a complicated production with animation, require producers, like graphic designers. So do you have any alternatives media recommending for educators in like smaller schools if they can produce their own? Like, for example, we have this morning we had a session on shadow puppetry. Can we integrate that into storytelling, or what other sources that would you like to recommend? So, yeah.
So yeah, just a note on the artist that we hired was from Barlig Mountain Province as well. So that was just to ensure that the houses or the colors of their loincloth are correct, because different ethno-linguistic groups from the north have different colors of their loincloth. So yeah, so it was important that we took somebody who has a vision and can see, and who even knows how the mountains over there look like. But for these stories are from oral tradition. So if we didn't have a video, what I would want is for the students to um, do a role play, and come up with a story themselves, is what I would probably do in class, because yeah, puppets are really nice to use. But in the old days, when we didn't have paper in the Philippines, we used um, leaves to create objects. So maybe taking stuff from the environment, or just using your hands to indicate that this is a carabao. So theater is actually a nice way of discussing it. So I mean, does that answer the question? So in terms of like classroom resources, if you don't have a DVD player, you only have the story, you can use the body as your resource. Um, what grade level? Oh, so this was done for college, for university students actually. But if you were to teach this to the elementary level, then more explanation is required in terms of where is Barlig, and like why are they even wearing these types of clothing, and then the questions are more simple. So 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 it can be adjusted. So for example, there is a story there about a monster who ate an old man who was being disrespectful. So he was like a mean person. So in his sleep, they took him. They took the wooden bed that he was lying on, and then threw him into the ravine. And when he died, they ate parts of his body. So like, I'm eating your here, let's have one arm each. And then the storytellers in Barlig actually said, here, you take the penis and I will eat the balls. So in their culture, that was just a part of the body, like your finger. So I thought maybe I should clean it up, right? Not say penis or testicles. But then I said, if they didn't um, think it needed to be sanitized, then why should I be the one to censor them? Okay. But that story about a monster, if you bring this to the children, you would need to maybe skip the part or give them additional like briefing before you even play them. There are subjects here that talk about headhunting. So that is also very sensitive in nature. So, but there are nicer, happy stories there about a mortal, a god who married a mortal, um, um, and and also it describes their way of life, like how they take their food, etc. So yeah, but I won't recommend it to really, really small children. High schools, oh, they worked in the high schools with enough orientation. Like, that's why the motivating activity is very, very important before you even play a video. Um, um, okay, are there any other questions? Um, so if you can, I mean, we can just send you the link again to the, like, as a guide for for that, if you would like to just do them at home, or if you have ideas that you are willing to share now with the group, that is fine as well. So yeah, it's just a processing activity, some guide questions. But if you also, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, could you walk us through using the
Yeah,
template? That would be really good.
yes. So thanks, Ben, for sharing. So I didn't invent this. So like 30 years ago, I read a book and it was called Freestyle Lesson Plan. Um, and it was very useful because I didn't really need to write down the objectives. So I just did a motivating activity. So motivating activities could be show them a picture of the mountains in Barlig. Where do you think this is, or do you have similar mountains in Barlig? It will also in that segment you can write the, like, important um, terms that they will need so that they can understand the story. There is a story about the Chico River Dam, and before I play the video on the Chico River Dam, I show them where it is, and then the people, the tribal leader whose name is Makiing Dulag, who died protecting those rivers. So those are things that you should put in the motivating activity segment. It could also be if your thing is on nature, you can say, imagine a park, and how would you feel if they cut down all of the trees and they built a mall over there? So where's your favorite picnic spot, etc. So key terms for motivating activity. So that was like my anesthesia, aesthetics, anesthesia, and synesthesia. Then for the processing activity, this is the main input of the teacher. So this is so usually I use video or the story. So we read the story and then I give them guide questions. So this is the discussion part. So this is the main lesson. This is where you will want, if you want them to role play, or to or give them an ethical question. For example, was it right? There is a story in which the woman who was embarrassed just left her family so as not to bring shame to the rest of the family. So she left. So then there's that question: what do you think it was? You know, it was right for her to just abandon her family, why or why not, all that. So those are your processing activities. And then the last part is the culminating activity, is the the homework, or what is their output. So for Two Friends One World, the output was the writing prompt about explaining color to somebody who is blind. Sometimes the writing prompt, for example, for the Chico River Dam, is to create a poster. And all these activities are designed so that they'll use Filipino, but if not, they can, if it's not for language learning, you can still use it for critical thinking, etc., or just teaching them how to write a clear sentence. So those culminating activities are, so sometimes I ask them to draw their life map and then explain their life map for the culminating activity. Or my favorite is the poster, like to oppose, let's say, the telescope, or an issue like fracking, etc. Yeah, so that's a culminating activity. And enrichment activities are additional video that you would want them to watch, or additional articles. So yeah, for this one I put, for Chico River Dam, I put the texts about by John Prilbret and all of the scholars, and the social science resources I put under enrichment activity, because maybe there are students in my class that are interested in those. Yeah, grade level. Oh yeah, ecological concern. Yes. It because of the milieu, like where it is, really it is so important to put it in the context of what's happening with the environment, and what will happen to these people. It used to be very difficult to get there, but then they built a highway, and then the Koreans want to build a big structure like their meditation center at the top, very, very top of the mountains. And so, but people are so, what is that? they're so without guile and so innocent. So like, okay, if you want to build there, you can just build something there. But we don't know what will happen if they do that. Suddenly, do we want it to become a tourist area, or yeah, how will that affect the people who live there? Um, so so it's not just the environment in that particular place, but really it's everywhere. Like, um, so the earthquake in 1996, for example, happened because the people, my explanation is the gods were angry because of all of the Baguio City and the nearby mountains, Barlig, the northern part of the Philippines, is a mining town, mining cities. And so they just kept boring by hole into the mountains until, one day there was an earthquake and four cities, just were devastated, and it took 20 years to rebuild. So we cannot. So when we have a story like this, I don't just talk about the language component, or just I don't ask them to just write something in Filipino or just use it as a language teachable moment, but we need to talk about the bigger issues. So yeah, so there are not just on ecology, sometimes the gender issues, because in the mountains of Barlig, um, the labor distribution is um, reversed. So it's the women who work in the fields and the men who stay with the children. So yeah, so those are the resources, and there's also the Ufuk Adfialig Tales of Enchantment, which is also in the CSA's website. So there are a total of 10 stories for that series. And then for the Pamana ng Lahi, there are 14 language modules and 14 culture modules. Check out the ones on food and the regional cuisine in the Philippines. And then the last two modules for Pamana ng Lahi are the culminating activities for the participants, or for your students. But each lesson also has a culminating activity. But if they did the whole program with the 30 modules, then I have a culminating activity in the end. And the culminating activity it's actually without, I used to I used to be very subtle and say, what do you think should happen in this city? But my question for that is like, if invaders came to your hometown, to your country, how will you resist them using the music? What music will you play? What would you tattoo for bravery? Depends on whether your culture believes in that or not. And then, so it's a combination of all the things that they have learned. What would the patterns of your shields look like? To design all that, but make sure that you are using all this so that you can send away the people who want to steal your land. So that's and it's actually the kids like go all out. They create a chant. They design their weapons, etc., based on what they have learned, because we do talk about like traditional patterns as well. All right. So are there other questions?
Many thanks, Pia. In the chat, you'll find the link for all of the other Pamana and Lahi resources. And there's talks as well as other videos. So please take a look at it, use it in your classes. We really appreciate it to enrich your children's education for sure.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Terry, and thank you to the UHCS EAS staff for the wonderful support.
Thank you, Pia, for all your time. And we do have a third workshop starting at 3 p.m. So you have about 40 minutes until we start on the very final workshop. So grab something to eat, run to the restroom, stretch. We're putting in the chat also links for 2 more workshops coming up with the Southeast Asia Centers at Michigan State University and at Cornell University. Those are coming up in the next 2 weeks on the 19th and one on the 26th. So please take that information and register for their workshops also. We've been collaborating to try to support each other's programs, and we would love to see you at those workshops also. So we'll see you in 40 minutes. If you're registered, or you're welcome just to come back and jump on for the third workshop. And thank you again, Pia. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.